We are humans.
In this VUCA Banny world, what does it mean to be human? How can we human well?
How can each human feel truly alive?
How can each community and city thrive and evolve?
How can 10,000 cities on our planet interconnect for our collective benefit?
How can we live in harmony with all life on Earth?
These are the questions that brought us together at Living Cities Earth, a very young and fast-growing global collective that started 3 months ago. We are a horizontally organized action community of 25 of the world's leading integral researchers and practitioners, with a total of 300 years of research and leadership that has benefited millions of people in over 1,000 cities. Living Cities Earth interconnects both people and institutions that together reach over 100 countries on all continents. Our aim is to integrate our capacities to human well with 10,000 cities serving Gaia's well-being, and to discover how can we nurture cities as complex, adaptive, living, spiritual human habitats in the right relationship to humans, bioregions, all other cities, and the planet. To do that, we must not only learn but also unlearn, to create space for new ways of knowing, doing, and interbeing in the 5 dimensions of person, people, place, places, and planet. What exactly are these 5 areas that form our testing grounds? First, it is Earth with all forms of life. Second, a naturally emerging network of 10,000 cities. Third, each individual city as a living ecosystem. Fourth, our communities. And fifth, each individual person. On each level, we will explore what we have to learn and unlearn in order to human well. These 2 streams of research as yin and yang represent a full circle of life. As critical and complex this inquiry is, it calls for a radical and diverse set of research methods, from action research to mapping, from ULab to artistic inquiry, and well beyond. We are both dreamers and doers, and plan to present our findings in many ways. From a series of maps and LCE Global Journal to cartoons and living project templates, from a global forum for 1,000 cities to an academy for mayors and young leaders, art exhibitions, and a living journal of unlearning. And we realize that the very idea of a traditional journal may well be something we'll need to unlearn. We bring all of our inspiration, competencies, and resources to this project.
We trust that by acting together, now and in the future,
we can learn to human well and help millions of people live happier lives.
In harmony with each other.
On all life on Earth.
Well, good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. How is the connection? If you hear me, please. Yes, I see by show of hands. Thank you very much. My name is Lev Gordon. It's early morning here in Seattle. I'm on the Pacific coast, on the coast of Pacific Ocean. And there will be a very interesting program today. So thank you to everyone who joined us live through Zoom, through Facebook and other media, and everybody who will be watching the recording. Thank you for starting the recording. So welcome everyone. We have the 3rd day today of our Global Happy Cities Summit, and we had more than 300 people joining us over the last couple of days. Today we have a very special topic. We talk about the future. And the future is not the future that somebody creates for us, but the future that all of us create together. We talk about the topic of future leaders, both young leaders, which will be sort of the prime topic for today, but also leadership as a phenomenon. How do we become those who create the future for ourselves, our families, our communities, our cities, and our beautiful planet? Let me start our discussion with a quick question. We will have many different ways to interact today. We have a Miro board, and I'll talk about it later on. So those who have access will have a link posted in our chat. So you could go into the Miro board and type your suggestions, ideas, insights. We'll talk about it in a second. So it will be all kept together. We'll create an article which will be distributed to city administrations in 4,000 cities worldwide, as well as through LC, Living Cities Earth Journal. We will have some live discussions. We have an amazing group of speakers joining us from 5 continents of our planet today. So again, thank you everyone who joined. Now, as we start our day, I would like to ask you to write in the chat where you are coming from, just a city or a country or a continent, whatever you feel connected with. Some people we work with, they say, well, I'm not sort of specifically connected to any specific city. I'm a nomad, so planet Earth is my home. Many people feel this way today. And as we start, let me quickly show you some interesting materials. I would like to ask for the right to share the screen. While I wait for this permission, let me also ask you to think about what leadership is to you. We will talk about future leaders, developing leadership for the future. So before we go there, just look inside to remember your childhood. You might have seen some leadership examples as you were growing up. I will definitely share some stories about mine childhood and early years, because they are very formative, and we all start building our picture of the world from what we see when we are little children and then young adults. So think about who were the examples of leaders for you, and then how it affected your life and how you could be affecting lives of other people in the days, months, and years to come. I'm still waiting for the permission to share my screen. Please let me. Oh, yes, excellent. All right. So some basic information about our program today and what's behind our third day. Just a second. Okay. Do you see the slides, right? Okay. Excellent. Well, let me quickly run. So we are talking about Living Cities Earth. That's the overarching theme. And today, specifically, the future leaders, June 23rd. Yesterday was the summer solstice. So congratulations, because lots of energy, as they say, is coming now from the cosmos to support all the positive developments on our planet. Our program is very simple, actually. After the short welcome and overview, we'll quickly run into the story barn. Barn, as you know, is a place in the villages where people come together to do things, but also to share things. And we'll share stories today about our leadership experiences. We have about a dozen of amazing speakers coming, as I said, from all parts of the world. So they will talk about what formed their perspective on leadership, some stories they have experienced or observed in their life. Then we'll talk about what actually helps people become better leaders or unlock the leadership potential within. So we'll talk about different approaches, frameworks, tools, programs, which would be helpful to develop future leaders. And as I said, those speakers who are joining us today, they're the action leaders, the experts, world-class researchers. They will share what do they bring to the table and how we can, then we'll talk about how we can bring it all together in programs which we will deliver on a global scale in 2023 and in the coming years. That's the last part of the program, the open workshop. We'll use the Miro board, I'll show it in a second, where everybody could add his or her comments. And we will talk about what programs do we want to create to help future leaders grow in 10,000 cities, starting, of course, with 1, then 2, 100, 1,000. And we'll have some key takeaways, summary of our discussion and next steps at about 17:30 Amsterdam Central European Time. And wherever you're in the world, please add or subtract. As I said, it's about 6 in the morning here in Seattle, but wherever you are, you have a different time zone. So I mentioned a couple of times the Miro board, and this is how it looks like. I'm sure that about half of us have used this software before. It's very simple. Everybody could use it, and we'll explain how to do it later on when we start doing this. We will have a link posted in the Zoom chat. By using this link, you could go into it's an open program, everybody could use it. So you could go onto this board, and those are different colored stickers where you could actually write your comments, your insights, your suggestions, and we have 6 areas of our interest today. I'll quickly go through them, right? So we'll have a co-creation process where everybody could add his or her opinion, or I see that we have also some groups. You could discuss at some point and share your group suggestions as well. So the top left corner, the insights from the story barn, when we listen to our speakers and presenters, if you like something they have said, something particularly touch your heart, please write it down. It might be the story about somebody's early life experience, or some specific people or books they have mentioned, or other sort of how they went through different life crises and how it affected them. So anything which attracts your attention, please write it down. So what have you learned about leadership and development from the stories that we share today? That's the yellow stickers. Top line in the middle, that's the second part of our discussion, developing future leaders. So what tools and processes, what practices, what knowledge, what methodologies we could use to help young leaders grow and help leaders in general become more effective in what they do. And we'll understand why we talk about leadership also. I'll share a couple of things just in a couple of minutes. So what would be important for such programs? Any insights, any suggestions, you could actually do it throughout our day-to-day. So go into the Miro when we get this link and add your ideas and your suggestions. Top right corner, future leaders for 1,000+ happy cities. So we are talking within the context of Global Happy Cities Summit about really improving the quality of life, improving sort of the quality of living in 10,000 cities on planet Earth. That's how many cities are on our planet. And we realize that it's the leaders who really make the most of the work, because they not only foresee the future, but they also communicate it to other people. They create the action, movement, projects, etc. And so how could we together develop future leaders in all of those cities? Those are the systemic sort of solutions we are looking for. So any ideas you have, please add it in the top right corner. And also, we have some auxiliary supplementary questions. You could choose to add some of your comments over there. It's in the bottom line. So on the left side, if you want to share, what do young people need? When you think about people from 12 years old, let's say, to 25, from 12 to 25, what are their needs? What are their wants? What are their preferences? So we definitely want to understand it. And if you want to share your observations from your family, your classmates, your university, or in society overall, please do share it on those blue stickers. In the middle, the question is how to make our programs attractive. As we co-design our programs, which are overall called Future Leaders, there will be several of them, both on a global scale and specifically for different countries. So how to make our programs attractive? Any ideas you have, please do share it on those stickers. And the final one, the bottom right corner, if you want to participate in this as a content creator, as an organizer, as a communicator, you want to represent it in your city, in your country, in your region. So please leave your name, contact information, and what role you would like to play. So we will have some ideas about the potential team. So this is the Miro board we will work with. I will have a link posted to it. Maybe it was posted already in our chat in Zoom. Everybody could go there and add a sticker if you need, or write it on those stickers which are already created by our colleagues. All right.
Шановні колеги, ви повинні заповнити дошку, там, де написано Global Happy Cities Summit, Future Leaders. Тобто ми повинні написати своє ім'я, контакти і...
Дякую. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's move on. So we're talking about Living Cities Earth. It's a very diverse global collective which brings together about 60 co-founders from 22 countries and 5 continents. We're all different. And when we were building our visual style a couple of months ago, Martin Knox, our chief designer from United Kingdom, he created this beautiful array of pictures. And definitely it's very sort of attractive, but at the same time, I always had a question, but we are about people. We are not so much about nature. Of course, we think about our relationship with nature, but how we change it is through the people, our mindsets, our communication, our collaboration. So I was asking Martin, lots of grass, lots of beautiful colors, but where are the people? It turned out that people, it's not on the pictures, but it's we, you and us, all of us who act together. We held our global event on the Earth Day, and there were about 92 speakers and experts who prepared it, and then also leaders joining from 154 cities in 45 countries. And so the people and the leaders, we call them leaders of positive change. You could call them activators, city makers, change makers, etc. We call them, for simplicity, leaders of positive change in whatever position you are in your city, in your sort of region, in your country, on our planet, but we try to create positive change. We also combine lots of organizations, our partners or members of our ecosystem, who together join resources, ideas, organizational capacity to do things. The result of our Earth Day Summit, which happened in April 22nd, as you know, was very interesting. All of those smart people, they came together, and the end result was they realized there are so many challenges on a ecosystemic scale, on a global scale, the climate crisis, the wars, and we definitely sent all of our sympathies and support to people in Ukraine with the aggressive war going on. So we hope that it will be over soon and wish peace to everyone involved. It was interesting to learn that there are about 28 wars going on today on our planet. So we realize that love is both the answer to how we deal with conflicts in our family or in ourselves, but also how we deal with conflicts on larger scales in our organizations, communities, in our cities, and on our planet. How to experience love and how to share it in action is also something we will be discussing today. Yesterday, we were presenting at the World Unity Week. It's a global event which brings together millions of people, and we were discussing how Happy City is comprised of such phenomena as love, unity, and peace. So when we as leaders become capable of not only feeling love inside, but sharing it through action, through service to others, right, through resolving different issues and conflicts in our city, when we create a unity with other people, and leadership is also about creating those collaboration, and we achieve peace, which is a fundamental support we need to develop our society forward. That's how we basically could achieve our diverse goals. Today, Living Cities Earth, the organization which is behind the summit, is in the very early stages of our development. We have about 100-year plan, and we are growing in terms of capacity and complexity of issues we're trying to deal with on a local and global scale. And when we think about what we represent, we realize we are both a catalyst. We catalyze processes in local ecosystems, in different cities, in different communities. We're an integrator who bring together different actors on a local, regional, and global scale. We're both a think tank, so we have lots of researchers and professors from different universities. We are also a link tank, so we connect people and institutions. And we are a do tank, so we do things, we run projects on the ground, and we change things, as well as many, many other different things, facilitating the positive change in 10,000 cities. What we do to achieve this, we inspire leaders, we empower leaders with knowledge, with tools, we interconnect leaders and organizations, and do many other things, but also we find time to laugh and celebrate, because we realize in the long run, if we want to go for many years, and our issues which we deal with require lots of time, lots of effort, lots of energy, we need to feel good about who we are and how we are together and what we do in the world. So we also invite everybody who listens to us today and in a recorded version, find time in your life to relax, to rest, even in difficult situations, but also find the lighter side of life, to laugh and celebrate, to create those soul-to-soul connections with other people. It happens that Living Cities Earth became the largest integral city development community on Earth. We combine about 150 global leaders and institutions. And as I mentioned, this organization was created by initially there were 17 co-founders, but the number of co-founders is growing. So today we have about 60 or 62. Every month we have new members joining. So they come from 5 continents. And today we work with information and other sort of ways to affect positively lives in more than 100 countries. This is just the last co-founders call we had a couple of weeks ago when many new co-founders joined from Europe, from Latin America, from North America, from Asia and Africa, and some of them are participating here today. Welcome Daniel from Berlin, welcome Ferrell from Scotland, and Kate from London, and Maggie from Paris, today traveling. While we as an organization are relatively young, all the co-founders, they bring a very rich history, right? So across our projects, which we ran for years, and some people ran them for 30, 40 years, and organizations, we worked with more than 125,000 leaders from 50 countries in the last couple of years. So we have quite a reach out on a global scale, and we bring all of those resources to also the program we will be discussing today, the Future Leaders. Why do leaders need to act? Well, normally a leader is somebody who has a vision, right? What is leadership about? It's to have the vision where we want to get, but also to have the trust with other people. So they hear you, they listen to you, and of course, the most important, they go together with you. There are different types of leadership, but the vision we share is 10,000 living cities on one living planet. So what is 10,000 living cities? What is a living city? We feel that the most important thing all humans want in life, and this is not only our opinion, it's the research conducted for hundreds and even thousands of years from Aristotle and maybe people before him, so the Greeks. If you think about what do you want in life more than anything else, the common theme is that we want to feel fully alive. When we feel fully alive, we could really both be happy and support other people in their life trajectories, in their happiness. And to feel fully alive, we believe that we cannot rely on external circumstances. We cannot say that, well, the circumstances are good, and that's why we feel fully alive. Of course, there is a connection. But our suggestion and why the leadership is so important is that we're able to self-regulate, right? To work with our psyche, with our mindset, with our energy, with our life situation in a way that we find ways to feel more alive in whatever situation we find ourselves in. And you know, of course, about Viktor Frankl, a person who was going through the Nazi camps during the Second World War, who later became the founder of existential psychology. And his point was that even in the most difficult situations, it's your inner choice which affects how do you see yourself, how do you experience yourself, and how do you experience the rest of life which happens around you. It's a certain level of consciousness, of inner maturity, but we believe that every person is capable to get there. And when we are together, when we support each other in our city, which is very important for leaders of positive change to collaborate, to communicate locally, but also on a global scale, as we collaborate and communicate between different cities in this network of leaders on a global scale, we could support our humaning well and humaning well of other people. Those people who know English, they might say there is no such a word as human well. Human is a noun, right? I am a human, you are humans. But actually, Alexander Laszlo, I believe, and his colleagues, they have invented, at least in our perception, this word. So human as a verb, to human, right? And you could human less well, or better. So our perception is that we can learn to human well, to live our lives to the fullest, to explore and develop and realize all of the potentials we have as creators or co-creators of our own and collective reality. So in the living city, people feel fully alive, they human well, they manifest their creative potential, and they live happy, healthy lives in harmony with each other and with nature. This is our vision, and we invite everybody to consider whether it correlates and resonates with you, and if yes, to join our community. Our mission, what we do to achieve the vision, is both simple and complex. Simple because we understand that neither 100 nor 1,000 of co-founders and partners will change the world. The world is a big place. It's very, it requires a lot of energy. So we realize that our real goal is to support leaders on the ground who work in their communities, in their organizations, in their schools, in their cities, in their regions. Some people work on a national scale, and some people work on a global scale. So we bring together those leaders and support them, inspire, empower, interconnect through different ways. We have a clear strategy, but I won't go through it right now. I work on a planetary scale, have some clear objectives for this year, and our organizational structure is what's called a horizontal self-organized organization. We have work groups on different topics, so people who join, they join those areas of action where they feel most connected to and where they have capacity to contribute, whether it's strategy or education or local projects, etc., etc. We use a tool called Sociocracy 3.0. It's a management approach where we work together to make decisions and then to realize them. It really opens up our individual powers as we move around our, we bring together different projects. So from our co-founders, we bring them together in order to support each other. And Alexander Laszlo will be talking later today from Buenos Aires. He's in Paris today. He also coined, I think we did it together in some group, but I heard it from him, a term, Earth Garden. So the garden on planet Earth, which connects and interconnects different projects and initiatives as they support each other. This is a picture of our president, Robert Fischer. He might be joining us today as well. He lives in Bern in Switzerland, and that's his picture from one of the mountains next to his home. He actually came there by foot. So, and Robert conducted lots of programs throughout Europe, including in Ukraine, and he believes that we are capable of things we don't know about. So in terms of leadership, we're capable of do things we don't know ourselves capable of. So let's explore together. And that's the image of a beautiful bird. That's our soul. It definitely is capable of many things, but let's move on. It's about time, 3:30 in Amsterdam, 6:30 here in Seattle. And after the quick welcome, thank you very much for your attention and for joining us today. We move on and start sharing our stories. And first person whom I would like to invite, and we'll have about 2 to 3 minutes to share some life-forming experience we had, either in our childhood, in our teenager years, or maybe even later on in life. So what affected you as a person, as a leader? Would love to hear. And Ferial, thank you for joining us today from beautiful Scotland. I know you have quite an international background, so let me please invite you to start, and then we'll go to Daniel in Berlin. But Ferial, to you first. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lev, for having me here today. Yeah, I thought about that question quite a bit, and I think actually in holding space for it, in the morning, I was just sitting and having what I call just my quiet time when I'm doing my inner work. And it brought up actually quite an emotional, I don't know, kind of current for me, because I think we have this wonderful opportunity to shape leadership, and leadership in both young people, in ourselves, and in those even that are still here holding that space, right? Because I think what I looked at was when did I flourish the most and when did I not flourish? I didn't flourish when I was asked to be pushed into a box. Whenever I was asked to be something that I really am not, I tried my best, I think, to be that because I wanted to play the game. I wanted to be part of something. I wanted to belong, but it was really, really hard because you just said it. I come with all these different cultural expressions, and which makes for this very unique way of viewing the world. And somehow they said to me, that was wrong. Right? Because it had to look a specific way in order for it to be what was usable in that world, all the way from my skin color, being born in apartheid South Africa, through to just who I am as a person. And then the more that I began to understand who I really truly am, and the more the world changed around me, I think it was the leaders that really shaped me were the ones who allowed me to be me. They saw the weaknesses, they saw the challenges, they saw that I had so much to grow in, but they never pointed at it the whole time. They actually held space for the beauty that is me to be seen. And through that holding of that space, I was able to actually also tune in to the rhythm of life and actually address those issues in my own life and still continue to do so. When I do work among leaders, some of which are here in Living Cities Earth, and I find this amazing space of, come on, Ferial, come play with us. And I wonder if there's something in that. And I wonder if we don't be the gatekeepers that are constantly pointing out what they're not doing right. But come play with us.
Thank you, Ferial. So you didn't like to be pushed around, so you wanted to find your own path. I'm sure that resonates deeply with pretty much every person who feels himself or herself a leader. And as we go to Berlin, Daniel, what are your life-forming stories or insights you would like to share? And we met with Daniel about 25 almost years ago in Harvard University. So it's amazing how time flies. And today, Daniel is engaged in many international initiatives. But tell us about your life-forming and leadership-forming stories.
Yes, thank you.
And then we'll go to Kate in London. Thank you.
Okay, Lev, thanks a lot for having me here. When I thought what to talk about, actually immediately the person came up that provided most of my guiding principles in life, and this is my grandmother. And for going back a little bit, I am half Iranian, half German. My mother, and I was born in a time where this was not a usual thing to happen every day. My mother was still very young when she got pregnant. She was not married to my father. And he had different things in mind. He moved on to Iran to do a revolution there. And my mother ended up with going back to the farm that she grows up as one of 8 children in where you could still feel a little bit of post-war Germany. And she felt very insecure, but, and usually in such a village, immediately there's a threat of sort of rumors spreading out and look like, but what my grandmother basically did then is that she took me with her through the whole village and was telling the true story to everybody. What actually happened, why there's this not very German looking child that is her first grandchildren. And in the village, and because of that, actually, there were no rumors really coming up because like everybody knew. And later when I grew up and asked her about her principles in life, So for her, she was a very believing person. But I don't think that this is the key factor. But it's basically, she perceives, she was absolutely firm that every person is a present of God. It's not that they are bad people, it's only that they are lost, there might be lost people. Secondly, of course, every child is a present of God, and every child has the potential to develop, and you have to put, and what you put into it will be the result at the end. And also, very contrary to our modern world, she was not looking to venture out for better and better opportunities. She came from a very, very educated family, but met my grandfather. He was waiting for 10 years until he was allowed to marry her, because he was considered to be not sort of a proper match in terms of status. But she basically made the choice that this is the person in life she had to live with and work with. And I find that is very, very different to a culture, a sort of matching culture that we have often today, where basically a lot of focus is always finding better and better alternatives by the technology means we have, the means to move around. But this distracts us from actually changing the environment that is really close to us. So the point that I want to make is, in my view, leadership, also global leadership, is really focusing on the environment around you. Put less effort on matching and moving around, but more effort in working with the relationships that you have, and that will create the most impact.
Thank you, Daniel. Working with the relationships we have, and this will help us to make the impact. It's very interesting. In Buddhist philosophy and practice, they say that it's extremely important to create connection. If you have a connection with another person or another living being, you can affect him, her, or them. If you don't have a connection, there is no way you could really do something meaningful together. So creating connections and communication in general is extremely important in our world. And in one way, it became easier with all the technological sort of tools and social media, etc. But on the other hand, of course, when we think about heart-to-heart connection, soul-to-soul, deeper sort of connection, sometimes because of the stress, because of all the challenges we as a society are going through, for some people it became more difficult. So building connections and making the impact. Thank you very much, Daniel, for bringing also the examples and stories from your grandmother. It's very inspiring to feel, intergenerational link here. Thank you. And we go to Kate in London, and after Kate, we'll go to Ilgar Alahverdiev in Baku, Azerbaijan. Hello, Maji. Kate, on to you.
Hello, Lev. Hello, everyone. First of all, I'm really happy that Lev and myself feels like we are in the same forest, right? Which feels very symbolic. Right, physically, I'm here in the sunny London. So hello, everyone. So I wanted to share a story. Actually, when I was thinking about the Lev request, it would be a story from my learning experience, actually, not from my practical experience, but my learning was quite practical. So my story would be from one of the yoga seminars where I was lucky to participate. This particular one was a few years ago, not far away from the beautiful sunny Odessa. So in the yoga seminar, we received very simple task. So imagine two lines of people standing in the quite big room, let's call it a room, in front of each other. So our task was basically to explore our style of management and leadership. So the task was very simple. So imagine that on the one side of the wall would be two lines of people who stand behind wearing their earphones and they can see everything. And people who are standing in front of them, their eyes are closed and they can keep their arms like this. and they need to move, but their eyes are closed. And in front of them, the same two lines of people. So when you are those whose eyes are open, their task, their goal is to help their follower, so to say, to cross this room and to get to another side of the room. And just through the kind of guidance through earphones. And those whose eyes are closed, so you are a follower, you cannot see anything. You just need to follow the orders of those who can see what's happening on the field. So on the first time of the exercise, I was a leader, so to say, so I can see everything. And my girl was moving, you know, like I know that I need to be super calm because their mess was happening there. But I was like, okay, just move slowly, you know, okay, a little forward, stop. Okay, stop for now, because there would be some mess happening there, a little left, and then forward. You have the whole nice pathway in front of you, nobody there. So my girl got there super fast, you know, no drama, nothing. And I was like, yeah, that's good. I mean, you just be calm, you know, just see, because I can see the field, right? But then there was a second part of exercise where, of course, we need to switch roles. So in this case, my eyes were closed. I was keeping arms like this, and I need to follow her guidance to cross the room. And suddenly, I just hear the complete kind of panic happening in my ears. I cannot see anything, and I can just hear something like, run, no, just stop, turn around, run. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what's happening here? And so in the end, of course, we collapsed, and I even got my toenail kind of ripped off, basically. So there was a lot of like blood, and I was super upset and so on. But my attitude was that because I'm a follower, I need to just shut up and follow orders. So I was getting all of this anger inside of me and getting kind of a little passively aggressive, but I was trying to keep calm. So then during the debrief, which is always, of course, the most important piece of every exercise, the after action review, we discussed that for some reason, I thought that if you are a follower, you just need to follow rules and follow orders calmly, and you don't have a right, you don't have a voice to express it. However, if you're a formal leader, this is when you need to speak up. And for me, it was very painful and physical, but really very effective lesson that there is the whole obligation for you as a follower as well, that basically we all leaders, and that it's super important to be able to manage bottom up, so to say, that no matter in which position are you as a person, you always have responsibility to structure basically people and space around you, and be open in your communication and be transparent, and to speak up if you are if you don't understand orders, or you do not understand mission and so on. It's very important to have voice, and it's very important to be able to speak whoever whenever disregard of your formal position, to have this inner strength and leadership inside of you. So this would be my story.
Wow, Kate, thank you very much. And thank you to our interpreters who synchronously interpret and translate what you have shared in such a amazingly, you know, colorful and high energy way. Communication is really, really important. And I'm sorry, I haven't mentioned the very important part of our organizational setting today. We have translations today, so most speakers speak in English, not everybody. A couple of speakers will speak in Russian or Ukrainian or in other languages. And we have language channels. So those of us who are in Zoom, there is a button on the bottom of the screen. It's called I think it's called interpretation. Yes, interpretation. And you could choose a channel. So there is original audio. So whatever speaker language is using, you will hear it there. There is English. There is also Russian. And there is a translation into Russian. And I believe that we have Ukrainian translation. Our colleagues couldn't find the button Ukrainian for whatever reason. in the Zoom program. We asked the support, but so far we just named it Korean. So sorry for this, we couldn't do it otherwise. So there is a Ukrainian translation under the channel called Korean. And yes, so you could switch between channels if you want. And when people will be speaking in other languages than English, there will be a translation the other way around into English, and you could listen to it also in one of those channels. It's the button on the bottom of the screen in Zoom. Thank you again, Kate. So communication is important, and as we change roles and positions, it's very important how we see the world and those people around us. Thank you for sharing your story. We have Majida Abdi. Maji, hello. Maji is joining us from somewhere in the mountains. I don't know even which country. Where are you right now?
I'm in France. I'm traveling.
France.
I just traveled from Paris to the Cantal area, and after the train, now we're going to be driving in the car for a while in the mountains. But I asked them to stop for a bit so that the connection is stable.
Thank you for joining us on the road, and I would like to thank Ilgar, who, understanding the situation as a true gentleman, passed his turn to you, Maji. So please speak now, and we'll pass it on to Ilgar later on.
Okay. Well, first, my name is Majida Abdi. I'm from Ethiopia, and like Farrell, I feel from all countries, because Ethiopia is one of the countries that has the most diaspora from the age of 4. I've lived in many, many different countries, and so this migrant life has become more of a world citizenship, and I would even take it to a multiversarian, just being in this, not realizing that I'm Black or I have a Muslim name until somebody makes it an issue. Because when you, I think as soon as we get to know the other, the differences are actually much less than the unknown that's feared. And the advantage of traveling and meeting people from different places takes away this barrier of unknown on which we put so many etiquettes that are filled with false stories or limiting beliefs of fears. And there's 2 stories that I'm a storyteller, but it's going to be very hard for me to put it in 3 minutes, but I will, that I want to share in terms of tools that are useful to remember that we all have in us. The first one is when I was a small kid, I started very, very left-handed, and I come from a Muslim world where it's just not acceptable. So there was all kinds of reprimandation that I do not eat with my left hand or write with my left hand. They would tie my hand against the chair on meal times and all kinds of less fun things. But that I was not in a world where people explained to you why it was important. There was no emotionality. It was like, this is what you had to do. And the child spirit does not want to be pushed around and will just resist. And apparently I had quite a threshold to pain or sort of, I did not see anything wrong with my eating my left-handed, and them telling me that God doesn't think it's right or that I'm feeding the devil did not feel right for me at my wise age of 5. And so I stuck with my left hand, or sometimes if it's tied out, eat with my mouth from the plate. It seems like a silly story, but this sort of life force that's really strong inside and needs to be confirmed from within keeps the child alive, and that inner child of mine that's stayed alive is quite stubborn, but at the same time it's the one that's really curious and wants it to resonate. And at one point when I got older, they tried their best, and I think I must have been 8 or 9. They had a sheikh who was quite wise and understood sort of this kid who's grown up abroad and how can we bring her to reason. And he had explained to me that, when I'm eating with my left hand, then I'm feeding the devil, and it's only felons and people who've done wrong things that eat with the left hand and this. And I heard him really deeply, and I appreciated the kindness and the gentle way of explaining a view. And I said, okay, I hear you, but my heart feels that I'm cool with God. He's made my right hand my left and my left my right. So it's all cool with, if that's the real worry. So what I'm trying to say is I believe that all kids have within them this feeling of what feels right and what's vibrating. And even though it's not the same as the others until it's pushed forth, and if we let kids just, even if it doesn't feel right, just be, we have a lot to learn from them. They're all teachers. And to that, much later in life, I did a festival called Images That Matter in Ethiopia as the first festival. And everyone said you have to start very small. When you do a festival, you have to start small and grows really year by year. And my intuition, my feeling was, this is a poor country. It's very hard to get things going slowly and get money for the same cause. We need to start it as big as possible to have as much attention and TV and have as many free seats as possible. It sounded completely ridiculous. And it was a lot of hard work. And for me, that kind of leadership was, I was holding space for a lot of people who felt as inspired as me to try something new. So the inspiration that comes from wanting to try something new is one that always can help other people with that kind of attitude gather. And my trick was every morning I would go put my feet on the earth and do some breathing and ask my ancestors and the earth to help me, because I did not know what I was doing. I was going on new ground. I was in films and activism, but I'd never run a festival before. But it turned out to be a success. We had buses bring kids from school and had, images that matter, films that make a difference, that make you think. And that could be accessible in a country like Ethiopia, that going to the cinema is not a piece of cake. It's very rare. So to have, to be able to do something new has a lot of challenges, but to see those challenges as opportunities and a process that is so fun to do in solidarity with my group of friends with whom we had like pizza at 5 o'clock in the morning and worked all night, when the process is worth it, when we don't have something to prove, we're just, I feel that's really the energy that makes not only leadership, but solidarity work really well. And that's what I find in the groups that I'm in here in Living City, in Living Cities, or in the Eco Civilization and the Connectathon, and it's just and with that, I'll land my plane with this French expression that says "qui veut peut." Qui veut peut means who wants can, but I don't believe that to be true. I feel that the true thing is who believes can, and one's belief is very much formed now by what we consume with the words. Like when we have words like interbeing, that was coined by Thich Nhat Hanh, or humaning well by dear wise big brother Professor Laszlo, it expands our way of seeing and feeling things. And I believe that we're here to also grow. We're discovering so many new things, and we need to also grow with our language, with words like sharing instead of giving and taking, and interbeing or humaning well. That just brings out the best in us. Anyway, it brings out the best in me, and I hope that you'll all be co-creators of not only the new actions, but the new ways of expressing it.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Qui veut peut, who believes can, who wants can. Thank you for those lessons, and thank you for connecting to our discussion today, being on the road. And we pass it on to Ilgar, and after Ilgar, we'll go on to Nick, Dina, Yuri, and Marilyn. So we're sharing one insight or story that defined our perspective on leadership from our childhood or early years. And we have about 2 minutes each, so we keep up with our timing. Ilgar, on to you. So Ilgar will speak in Russian. He is from Baku, Azerbaijan, and colleagues who don't understand, of course, please, you can switch on to the channel English or Russian. It will be translated to English in this channel in your Zoom. Thank you. Ilgar, on to you.
Добрый день. Я благодарю всех организаторов, потому что сегодня очень интересный и важный день. Я слушал очень интересные, вдохновляющие истории. И единственное, я считаю, тут как-то внести ясность. Я, так как являюсь также исламским богословом, однозначно могу сказать, что питаться левшой, либо что-то делать левшой, никакого запрета в исламе на этот счет не имеется. У меня дочка, она левша, и она с детства была левшой. является практикующей верующей, в принципе, и живет, будучи левшой. Это, скорее всего, какие-то неправильные интерпретации. Я очень сочувствую, что наша уважаемая коллега вынуждена была пережить такое. И история, которая на меня очень повлияла, история, она касательно достоинства. И будучи узником совести в определенный период своей жизни, я встретил одного подростка. И значит, этот подросток, он раздавал еду в тюрьме, и его называли унизительными названиями, то есть не по имени. Я как-то пригласил его к себе, мы выпили чай, и я спросил у него, зачем ты откликаешься, когда тебя зовут не по имени? Он сказал, это из-за еды. У меня нет еды, я вынужден откликаться, когда меня зовут даже не по имени. Я его попросил, что ты каждый день будешь иметь минимальную еду, но ты не откликайся, когда тебя будут звать не по имени. И он перестал откликаться, когда его звали не по имени. И в какой-то момент он начал чувствовать достоинство. Он изменился, и он начал жить. То есть, и я думаю, что достоинство, оно является важным элементом жизни. И сегодня молодежь должна именно ощущать это. Возвращаясь к словам Льва о Франкле и концлагере, и будучи логотерапевтом, конечно же, человеческое, ноэтическое, именно это достоинство является важным элементом ноэтического. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Ilgar. So a boy in your story who started to experience and feel dignity, self-respect, self-appreciation, thanks to somebody who told him to try to do it, thanks to you, he obtained more power, more sort of energy to live on his life. And it would be interesting to see what his life became ever since. But my take from it is that also it's important to have people nearby who could give you the feedback, right, in your leadership development or in your personal development in life. So Ilgar, thank you for being this mentor or person who supported this young boy in his life trajectory. Thank you. And we are going on to Nick. Nick, on to you. And after you, we'll be going to Dina in New York. Nick.
Hey, everyone. My name is Nick. Thank you for joining. If I may ask you, we've been sitting for quite a while. If I may ask you, do a little stretch for me. Just move a little bit. It's been a while. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Wherever you are, there's probably potential for some stretch. Thank you. Thank you. There's a little story that bridges my entire life. I'm 42 right now. I'm not sure how old I was, probably about 3 or 4 years old, and I was walking with my grandmother and I saw a broken branch on a tree. It was spring, and this branch was full of buds. What do you call them? When leaves are about to sprout. And it was so weird to me. I could not understand why would somebody do that. And that was a moment when I encountered death and irreparability. But I also encountered the value of living, the value of life, the value of every living thing. Years later, 30 years later, I met a number of my teachers, Buddhist teachers, and after some thinking, I realized that the simplest questions of all is the purpose of life. I'm not sure why people are pondering about it. This is the simplest question. It has two answers. One is to make good for all living beings, and the other one is to create less suffering for them. But we all choose our different ways to do the same job. It's just this. And that broken branch stayed with me forever, ever since. And when I'm looking at the world, when I'm looking at a fight I want to join, at a fight I want to be a part of, things I want to remove from this world and things I want to create, it's that value of that living and the irreparability of some actions. Thank you. Thanks for the stretch, guys.
Thank you, Nick. It was really good. Put a smile on my face, but when you shared the story, I had some tears in my eyes, actually. And thank you for sharing your thoughts about our purpose in life. And Dina, if you see us, yes, I see you. Dina is in New York. On to you, and then to Yuri in Zaporozhye. Dina.
Hello, friends from all over the world. I'm really happy to be in your company and to share my story about leadership and development. And my story happened in 2011 in Costa Rica, where I worked for holistic addiction rehab. I came to work there for my friend. He set up this rehabilitation center for addiction, and I worked there as a coach and therapist. And at some point, the business went so good that my friend decided that he wants to go somewhere else and set up another business, another rehab, and he put me as a leader of this rehab, as a director. And this was my first leadership position, official leadership position, which I took in the world. I've been taking multiple unofficial leadership. I've been leader for whole life, but I grew up in Soviet Union under dictatorship leadership. So I never even kind of imagined myself as official leader. So at that point, some people, there was a conflict in this organization. Some people wasn't happy with my appointment. Some people wasn't happy with life in general. Rehabilitation center is a place for conflict, actually. So I didn't know how to deal with this conflict. I was totally confused. And I had a dream, at night dream. And my dream, I saw myself sitting in front of Russian dictator, Putin, and teasing him. And then he noticed me and I ran away. That was a very short dream. Went to my mentor and say, what type of dream I have? Why I see Putin in this dream? And he asked me, listen, what do you associate with Putin? I told, hey, he has a lot of leadership and power, and he doesn't use it very well from my point of view, of course. And he told, where do you have leadership and power? And I said, oh my gosh, yeah, I have leadership and power. I was appointed as the director of this rehab. I didn't even realize that this is about power. I've been realizing this is about creativity, bringing new ideas, even more money. I loved new idea of new money. I never understood that it's leadership and power and responsibility. And I was afraid. That's why my dream-like consciousness brought me this awful dictatorship picture, because the only example I've seen in my young years of leaders were dictators, leader who put people down. So when I realized it, I did some exercises, kind of trying to take my power. This was process work exercise or process-oriented psychology, which later I got a master in. And then I did very simple leadership steps. I collected like organizational meeting. I listened to people's opinion. I gave my own plan. I created some kind of schedule where people report and we discuss, and things went pretty well, and I was a good leader. And this example on how our understanding of power, understanding of leadership, which came from the past, affect our leadership style, affect our relationship with leadership, was kind of like created a big path in my life. For the past 10 years, I live in New York and I lead a school for career enhancement using process work method, process-oriented psychology methods, and teach people how to bring in new talents, how to harvest power, and how to work with conflict. And I would love to offer this to the world, and I would love to learn from other leaders. And also I see a new generation require new types of leadership, maybe more horizontal, more networking, not dictatorship, not hierarchical leadership. And we need to help them to build these skills, and we need to learn from them as well. So that's how I see the leadership world and my position with it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Always those stories from, critical moments define our view of the world. And I pass it on to Yuri, who is in Zaporozhye right now in Ukraine. Yuri, what's your story? And then on to Marilyn.
Да, всем доброго времени суток. У кого-то, как у Льва, это утро, у кого-то вечер. Моя история моего лидерства началась, наверное, когда мне было несколько лет. Я родился тогда, когда пропала моя сестра. Это привело к разрыву между моими родителями. И меня перебрасывали на достаточно далекое расстояние друг от друга, где-то десятки тысяч километров. Вот. И в один из таких моментов, мне было 2,5 года, мне перевезли в город Сумы. Я там почувствовал такое или одиночество, или какую-то боль. И когда меня спрашивали, где-то мне было 3 до 5 лет, я уже точно сейчас не помню, кем ты хочешь стать, я говорил о том, что я хочу, чтобы делать мир лучше. И сложно сказать, это эта травма была, или я из прошлого воплощения уже выбрал, в какой семье родиться и как развиваться. Вот. Но в дальнейшем, наверное, реперные точки для меня были это какие-то или болезненные вещи, или сильное желание. Одно из двух, в принципе, так человек и развивается. Вот. Я развивался через встречи с интересными людьми, например, с Брайаном Трейси, он мне много чего дал и вдохновил, или такими людьми, как Брэнсон. Вот такого типажа. Я когда встречался, они тоже меня вдохновляли сильно, получается, эти личности. В определенном, в 25 лет я тоже через травму вошел в духовное развитие. Почему? Потому что сначала у меня было предпринимательство. Я, еще будучи студентом, занялся предпринимательской деятельностью, определенными вещами. И уже в 25 лет, без опыта и без наставников, без тех людей, которые могли мне подсказать что-либо, потому что мои родители были уже и пожилые, и они инженеры, не понимали в бизнесе ничего, я пошел в крупные сделки межгосударственные и потерял все, что у меня было, и дома, и деньги. Это было для меня катастрофа, и для моих родителей, они были материалисты, тоже была катастрофа серьезная. И тогда я ушел в духовные, в духовность, в духовные школы, я изучать начал психологию, вот, потом и психотерапию, разные методы. И это, наверное, сильно на меня повлияло. Ну, плюс, я уже сказал, это духовные личности и сильные личности, которые со светлой душой, я бы их назвал, несмотря на то, что Брэнсон занимается бизнесом, но он занимается и благотворительностью, и много интересных вещей, как там мудрецов со всего мира собрал, они тоже и за мир, и за многие благие вещи ратуют и делают в жизни это. Я бы назвал тоже его эволюционным лидером. Вот. В принципе, история такая, что отношение к моим родителям, наверное, развивало меня в сторону финансовой реализации. Все остальное в духовной, психологической. И я, наверное, ищу золотую середину между и духовным развитием, и материальным развитием. Я считаю, что самое эффективное – это то, что реализуется в этом мире. Если монах сидит в пещере и медитирует, и какую-то духовность свою развивает, он не может оценить уровень своей духовности, потому что ему обратный мир, обратную связь не может давать. Если этот монах выйдет и что-то попробует сделать серьезное, и у него получится, и обратный мир скажет, что да, действительно, ты правильно все делаешь, наверное, это лучшая будет оценка. Вот. Поэтому для меня очень важно как раз смыслы. И это тоже было с юности у меня, как говорил Ник, смыслы жизни, они очень важные. Для меня целый список есть смыслов, но я с Ником тут соглашусь. Самый главный и для меня смысл – это любви. А любовь – это когда ты любишь и себя, это значит для меня психологическое здоровье, и близких, и мир вообще. Если ты находишься в любви, это значит, что ты созидаешь, а не разрушаешь. И в этом случае, наверное, это тоже один из главных смыслов моих – созидать вместе с теми людьми, которые хотят быть психологически и духовно здоровыми, для того, чтобы не разрушать, а для того, чтобы эволюционировали и они, как люди, и происходила эволюция планеты. Потому что я считаю, что вся Земля – это как один живой организм. И сейчас война, которая происходит между Россией и Украиной, показывает, что если какая-то страна, в принципе, проблемная, то это может повлиять на большое количество стран. Поэтому желательно, чтобы все страны занимались своим психологическим и духовным здоровьем. А когда возникает проблемная зона, с моей точки зрения, когда психологически и духовно больные люди приходят к власти и создают большие проблемы, неважно в какой стране. Один из моих бизнесов – это политическая реклама с 90-х годов я занимаюсь. Я очень много политиков знаю. И, к сожалению, очень маленькое количество политиков по всему миру действительно эволюционные лидеры. И это большая проблема, потому что это самый большой рычаг. Вот как раз перед войной Лев спросил у меня, перед самой войной, какой самый большой рычаг изменения в мире? Я сказал, самый большой рычаг – это, естественно, если эволюционный лидер возглавляет страну и делает эволюционные реформы в своей стране, созидательные. Но так как это сложная ситуация, потому что, попадая в такое же окружение, любой политик, к сожалению, становится таким же соленым огурцом, как все остальные, и это проблема. Очень сложно прийти к большому количеству политиков эволюционных в любой стране, в большинстве стран, наверное, так правильно сказать. Поэтому я считаю, что нужно заниматься эволюционным развитием различных слоев. И простых людей, чтобы у них развивалось эволюционное мышление на основе психологического духовного здоровья, и волонтеров, и общественных деятелей, и предпринимателей, которые могут серьезно строить экосистемы, которые меняют мир. Потому что я являюсь не только серийным предпринимателем, я являюсь серийным инвестором. И как человек, который инвестировал в венчурные стартапы, для меня очень важно, чтобы визионер, он, получается, видел, как он влияет на изменение мира в долгую. Это называется в методологии построения единорога значимая трансформационная цель для большого количества клиентов, основанная на внутренних своих целях. В этом случае человек не за деньгами идет, он идет за тем, чтобы изменить мир к лучшему, создать что-то уникальное, новое, которое тоже меняет планету в лучшую сторону. Вот это важный аспект. Поэтому я считаю, что нужно работать со всеми слоями общества для того, чтобы менялось что-то в лучшую сторону на планете Земля. Это мое искреннее субъективное восприятие. Вот. И я сделаю все возможное, чтобы это реализовать. Спасибо большое всем.
Thank you, Yuri. You shared stories about evolutionary leadership and how you came to this realization. And if you know, there is actually a group called Evolutionary Leaders. You might know some of its sort of more famous, let's say, participants like Deepak Chopra and several others. And we are very lucky to have several of those evolutionary leaders as co-founders of Living Cities Earth. And one of them, and actually, I would say the most prominent co-founder of Living Cities Earth is Marilyn Hamilton, a long-term colleague, friend, and a teacher of mine, and many others. Marilyn has been working in the area of integral city development, and she is actually, I would say, a creator of this term, integral city development, for many, many years, both practically supporting city leaders in different countries and also developing frameworks, models, theories. She's an author of many books, and it's beautiful that Marilyn is completing our first circle. Marilyn, on to you. We know you as a grown-up person. You have done a lot. You have influenced many people and many leaders around. Really amazing things in your portfolio. But please share a story from your formative years. And you need to switch on your mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Lev, for that very kind introduction. And I actually am going to start with a research and study that I set out to understand leaders and then loop back. So I actually use a definition of leadership that says that leadership is a journey to wholeness for an individual. I borrowed that from Joe Jaworski, who wrote the book Synchronicity. But when I look back through my life, the reason that that rings so resonant, I will borrow from my childhood. I was a very kind of playful and romantic child, and I was attracted by stories, always loved stories. I loved the theater, and I was always acting in my child groups and producing or taking the lead part, or so I would take fairy tales and act them out and charge people for the lemonade to come and watch them, that kind of thing. So I had a little bit of entrepreneur in me, as well as this fascination with acting out and directing and producing. And so I also had parents who were children of the Depression in Canada. So I grew up in Canada. And so their stories were very vivid, and I took them very personally. And one of the things that my father really impressed upon me was that I was independence and being able to look after yourself was extremely important. And so I took this as a very serious act of adulthood and maturity. And so I waited till he left home one day when I was not even finished my high school. And I said, right, I'm leaving home. It's time for me to look after myself. And so I left home, and I did find a job to look after myself and support myself during the university that followed. I was even considering that I might not go to university because that maybe wouldn't make me independent enough. But I did find the work that put me through university. It actually took me back into the theater. I managed to do that while I was in the university. But I also discovered that in the supporting of myself, the independent showed me that two things. One was that following the money was actually something that made me think not only about finishing my university with becoming an accountant, which I did, a qualified accountant, which most people are astonished to find out, But the reason I did that is because I wanted to learn how to run a business. I also became very attracted to masculine energy. And I would say for about 20 years of my young adult life, I pursued very masculine-oriented pursuits and was often the only woman in the boardroom, often the youngest person in the boardroom. And I just learned how to do that for about 20 years until I encountered a client who invited me to an unusual workshop. And I turned up there with a 3-piece suit and a briefcase. And in 3 days, I went through a Satori experience. So I spiritually awoke. Wow. And it came to me the beautiful experience of oneness. And so when I started then to see that in order for my own life to become more complete, more whole, I had to actually reclaim the feminine part of me. And it was only when I did reclaim the feminine and bring it into balance with the masculine in me that I had the yin and the yang of a whole person and was more prepared to enter life that called me forward in my mature years to go back to school. And I studied learning and leadership in self-organizing communities, in fact, online communities. And so it was being able to actually study a whole group of people who were aspiring to understand how the systems that we create impact the well-being of our lives and the world. So I am serving in the School of Leadership at Royal Roads University. As you say, I've written many books about not only cities, but I'm always fascinated about leaders and the life conditions that influence how they develop capacity. So I look forward to sharing some more of that when we move beyond the story stage. So thank you for inviting the story.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marilyn. And everybody who has shared. I will also take a minute to do this. As you see, we're shifting our program a little bit. We'll change the timing. So it was really important to connect with everyone, because when we hear from people some advices on how to do things, well, many of us always ask, or often ask, well, how they have acquired those knowledge or what have affected their development, right? So we felt it's very important to start with our personal perspectives before we go to our professional sort of know-how, and then together discuss the programs for development of future leaders on a global scale, as well as we are running a program in Ukraine later this year and in some other regions of the world as well. We're discussing a program in Africa, and so we'll have a lot of diverse, very different cultural situations, economic situations, social situations, life and peace situations, right? So, but today we're looking at the fundamental issues of leadership. And let me share just one of my perspectives. So I'm 49 years old, and when I was growing, I was very lucky that my parents had a very loving, very strong sort of family relationship, as well as my grandparents. And I even had a chance to experience for many years my great grandparents. Not a very sort of, usual situation for most of people. And so I had a lot of this support coming from my, prior generations in my family. And I will specifically mention that my father was very loving, but also very strong man. He never really pushed me or put me in a box, but because of the strength of his energy, I guess that's still something to explore further. But I was growing up not in the shadow. He was always supportive of me, but somehow next to sort of a great leader, right? A person who's really changing things in his life, in the environment where he was active. And surprisingly, later in life, when I was about 24, maybe years old, after studying in France and working somewhere in Europe, I joined a company in the Netherlands called ING Group. At the time, it was the second largest financial company in the world. And I joined their global leadership program. And the first week of our job, they hired basically 8 young people from all over the world, from 8 different countries, from 5 or 4 continents. And we came for our integration week to Amsterdam, and then we went on a retreat, about, I think, 10 days retreat in Belgium mountains called Ardennes Mountains. Some of you know it. And we were going through some leadership training and team building exercises. And I realized that there is something inside me, in my sort of heart, which opposes the idea of leadership. Then I realized, okay, it's some unresolved issues from my childhood, perhaps. And I was opposing the idea of this strong, sort of powerful, imposing leadership. I think somebody mentioned, Dina mentioned, because she grew up in Soviet Union and also observed this in her life. And so at the time when I was 24, I was thinking, okay, I'm not, that was very funny. I never wanted to work in finance. I thought this is very boring. Finance is the last thing in my life I will be connected with. And then I worked for 10 years in a financial company, not in the financial jobs, more in the leadership type of management jobs, but still. And I was also opposing the idea of leadership. I thought, no, everybody is doing his own thing. We don't need leaders to tell us what to do, etc. And it was very funny that last 25 or 30 years, I'm actually researching the topic of leadership. I was working in many leadership positions. I studied it at Harvard, Columbia University, London Business School, Yale, etc., etc. And now I realize that leadership is really about giving power to other people, empowering them, right? Is to supporting the leader in each one of us. So it's not about my leadership. It's about our collective leadership. And this is what we try to do in Living Cities Earth, is also to create this environment when people could really flourish, right? To unlock their inner powers. So thank you again to everyone who joined today. So this transformation is insight from my life, or at least one of the many insights. And what I suggest we do now, so thank you again for this circle. I can quickly show you how the work is being done in our Miro board. So this is the Miro board I showed earlier, and we've been discussing this first part called Insights from the Story Barn. And as you see, there are quite a few insights. There are even more in our Zoom chat. And so you're very welcome to share your insights also in writing in the Zoom chat or directly on the Miro board. Okay, so where we are now, it's 4:30 in Amsterdam, 4:30 in Amsterdam. We have still 1 hour and a half of our program. So what we will do, we are 30 minutes going on alternative schedule, right? So what we will do now, and I'll ask Dina to go first, because I know she's on a program and will have to go soon. We will have a short, maybe 15 to 20 minute section where each one of our speakers, and welcome Alexei from San Diego, we will quickly share, I suggest 1 minute, 1 to 2 minutes, let's say, what professional capacity you bring to our future collaborative project of helping to grow future leaders in 10,000 cities of planet Earth. What professional capacities, resources, models, frameworks, programs, projects you bring to the table. And I suggest that, Dina, if it's good for you to start off, we'll start with you and then go on to Ferial. So let's see if Dina could join. Let me count to 3. And if not, I'll pass it on to Ferial right away. 1, 2, 3. All right, Ferial, on to you. And then I'll ask Kate to speak up. So what professional resources, frameworks, methodologies you feel we could use in helping future leaders develop worldwide? Ferial?
So for me, it really is always comes back to the inner capacity of the individual human being, and then how that interrelates to our connections between each other and our world. And so I think that's what I can bring. So one of the programs that I developed is something called Embracing Your Maverick Nature. And it really is about the fact that we're also, I don't want to go into the whole story of it because I did create that, but I don't have time for this right now, perhaps on another time. But I think we're all kind of born these mavericks with this possibility, this infinite possibility. And then modernity kind of breaks us down to having to be that puzzle piece I spoke about earlier. That's just a carbon copy the sausage machine rather than the individuality that we really bring, which I think is what nature has also evolved us to be, because it does look at the big picture and it picks for thrivability, which means we are the best of the best. So, and that individuality is so important, and yet we are asked to be a carbon copy. So I would say that is something that I can bring for young people, as in holding that space for them to find that individuality, that thing that maybe even looks like rebellion, but actually it is that true thing that's inside of them that is a solution for us, right? The second part of it is, I think we got to make this fun. I don't like learning when it's boring. I know some of you have gone to Harvard and Yale and all of that, but I think we learn so much better when we're having fun. So for me, it's about gamification. And so I work with some others who are really working at that. How do we use technology that we have and actually taking this learning and putting young people, I mean, all the way from children through to our young people that are university age and that kind of setting. And we actually help them to engage with that inner development, because it is not being prioritized in the institutions right now. That is the learning institutions. So I'm hoping that we can do that. We can begin to push various organizations that are saying, like the UN, that the inner development goals are important. Why don't we go out there and say, well, now you got to prioritize it if you're saying it's important. So I think that's what I don't want to take too much more time. Thank you, Lev.
Wow. Ferial, thank you so much. Ignite the maverick inside each one of us. Or as they say in psychology, right, connect to your inner child, where there is so much energy, so much joy. So we don't need to be boring in our lives. And on we go to Kate, and then we'll move on to Daniel. Kate, on to you.
Thank you, Lev. So first of all, just to be a devil advocate here, as somebody who's finishing her third master's in MBA in one of the fancy schools, I want to say that fancy doesn't mean boring, you know. It can be academic, but still very fun and practical. So my support to the fancy business school as well, because you need to build well. However, as answering to your question, Lev, I think that what I'm willing to bring is my skills as a program director. And what I mean by this, that I would not even mention specific methodologies, simply because I think all of us with the wide experience in different fields know that there are different methodologies, and some of them work better in the one circumstances, while other work better in another. So what's important for me is more kind of principles that it build on. So first of all, I believe that it should be practical. Whenever program we're implementing, it should be practical. It can be the person, a project of the specific person, or it can be community need. You know, sometimes we don't have our own project, but we work, let's say, in our local community, and we know that this is the task that need to be solved, or some problem exists. I think any learning becoming much more just meaningful, you know, if we have this practice in place and practice-based learning and approach and so on. The second, I believe that there should be a good balance between internal and external expertise, because I believe both that peer-to-peer learning is incredibly important. We need to have good tools and provide it to our participant to arrange into the meaningful peer-to-peer learning. However, sometimes, and more than sometimes, the external expertise also incredibly important. So it's important to be able to pick up the needed piece of the expertise and put it into the right place of the program for the need of our audience. And probably the third one for me would be the balance again between the body and mind, because I was really thankful to Nick, you know, for the suggestions to stretch out and so on. It can be implemented in different forms. So for me personally, it's a yoga. For somebody else, it can be something else. However, if the person is tired, feeling anxiety, do not sick, frustrated, and so on, he or she might even be able to create something, because some people just isolate their body from mind like so much, you know, so the brain maybe even will be able to produce something. However, then there would be no energy to implement this, because you need passion, you need desire, you need this feeling that your body and mind and your heart are connected to have this energy to implement these projects later. So for me, this would be the third crucial component.
Wow. Thank you, Kate. Passion, desire, replenish your energy to change the world, right? Thank you very much. The balanced program. So not only developing our mind, but developing our body, energy, and other aspects of our being. Thank you very much for bringing all of those issues. And we move it on to Daniel and then to Ilgar later on. Daniel, on to you.
Lev, could you quickly reframe what you think I should put the focus on?
Yes, of course. As we will be, we are already, but as we will be continuing developing our programs for future leaders, more for the young people, not only, so we call it future leaders overall, what professional capacities, models, frameworks, organizational capacities you feel you would like to bring in all of this work?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, one of my main projects is now that we build a global community of media makers and journalists who are committed to democracy, to free speech, freedom, free press. And this is a gigantic outreach you can imagine. I mean, in Eastern Europe, non-dependent of the war, we reach out to more than 60 million people. But this is really a global project, a global fellowship community that encompasses media makers from the Middle East, Africa, Asian countries, South America, North America, not so much yet, but this we like to be built on. So what certainly I can offer is outreach. Then in our programs, there was always a strong component of community building. So we basically have created a franchise of local hubs that compose of co-working spaces, a community that is both local but also global at the same time. And what I could envision is that maybe we would have something in the future, like there's this social impact hub, but living Earth hubs around the world where people can either come, work, or maybe even live together, maybe switch between places. But you know that if you move to the Living Earth hub from one city to the other, you have like-minded people. And for me, it would be really interesting exploring this idea a little bit of creating communities that are, and the infrastructure for communities that are both local and global.
Excellent. Dankeschön. Thank you very much, Daniel. On to Ilgar and then to Alexei and San Diego. Ilgar.
Спасибо за очень интересные инициативы, предложения. Я думаю, что сегодня, в принципе, есть необходимость создания нового предмета, новой дисциплины — уроки человечности. Уроки человечности. И каждый участник этой дисциплины, каждый участник этого урока, каждый ученик, каждый молодой человек, каждый подросток, каждый ребенок, он должен превратиться в стартап человечности. То есть он тогда сдаст экзамен, когда он он сможет реализовать в своей жизни что-то именно на плоскости человечности. То есть сегодня это, вне зависимости от географии, вне зависимости от места проживания, является самым важным. Еще я бы хотел отметить то, что сегодня происходит на Украине и происходит в отношении именно процессе наступления России, захватничества России и Украины. То есть это продолжение, то есть не сегодня возникло. Это продолжение того, что было в Ираке, Это продолжение того, что было в Афганистане. Это продолжение того, что мир годами наблюдал за этими процессами. То есть в этом плане я думаю, что сегодня то, что происходит в уроках человечности, вне зависимости от географии, всюду есть большая нужда, и в том числе в Северной Америке. Спасибо.
Thank you, Ilgar. And on we go to Alexei. Alexei in San Diego, California. Thank you for joining us. We had quite a spirited discussion, and now it's your time to share what professional tools and approaches you could bring into developing future leaders. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to meet and to see everyone here. Thank you so much for joining us. And to continue speaking about what we can bring, I would suggest us to focus on two levels, mindset level and a skills level. And on a mindset level, I love the idea to start building planetary leadership mentality. When we perceive our possibilities to impact not only locally or not only to our families or organizations or cities, but perceive ourselves and our leadership capacities as the best representative of humanity in general. And in this case, I would invite us to think about how we can help our future or young or youth leaders to, I would say, to build mindset which is integral. And in this case, I would suggest us to use spiral dynamics as one of the map of different levels of values and mindsets, and of course, integrate everything. And to perceive everything through acceptance and proactivity. I believe that there are two very important mindset and at the same time skills. And if we're speaking about skills, I would suggest us to also pay attention to entrepreneurial mindset and soft skills, as well as leadership skills. I think some soft skills such as communication, presentation, building relations, building connections, team building, or strategic thinking, planning, all of these things as a soft skills and leadership skills may be very useful. And sometimes we are jumping on some very high levels of, I would say, skills or mindsets or thinking processes or some tools. But me as the coach, when I'm working with leaders every day, I see that sometimes they just need support in let me say, simple skills. I would say simple, I mean, maybe they're not simple as we want to see them, but I mean basic skills, and which I mentioned before. And I would suggest us also use, of course, as a framework, transaction analysis, my favorite theory, child, parent, and adult, because we can use it as a structure analysis when we can analyze the personality structure, and at the same time we can use it as a communication tools as well. So spiral dynamics, acceptance, proactivity, transactional analysis, soft skills workshops I can offer. If we're speaking about my capacity, we're already offering, and maybe let me know if it's a good time to invite our participants to join our upcoming workshops, which are gonna start next week, right? So Lev, can I do it, or?
You could mention it, of course, and we'll share some information, or you could share some information in the Zoom chat.
Yes, we'll already invite all of you, and of course, young leaders and all participants around the world to join our The Art of Effective Communication workshop on June 27 at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Daytime, and The Art of Self-Awareness. We start with these two topics. The Art of Self-Awareness workshop is going to be on July 3rd at 7:30 a.m. Pacific Daytime as well. So I think I agree with my colleagues, right, who spoke previously, that we need to balance many things and make this program really integral and on the different levels of personality development and leadership development. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we go to Zaporozhye. Yuri, your turn, and after you will pass it on to Nick. Yuri.
Да. Большое спасибо, Лев. Да, сейчас я переключу язык. Я согласен с Алексеем. Я считаю, что для того, чтобы лидер был по-настоящему эволюционный, очень важно совмещать как скиллы различного уровня. Вот, и мягкие, и твердые, и профессиональные. Я тоже работаю с лидерами и в бизнес-индустрии. Наверное, бизнес, он отражает как раз обратную связь, насколько качественно лидер может это делать. Не всегда, конечно, бывают, к сожалению, лидеры эгоистичные и не всегда экологичные и добиваются результатов. Но мне бы интересно было, чтобы среди предпринимателей было как можно больше тех, которые как раз являются эволюционными лидерами, которые созидают, а не разрушают. Вот. Так как я сказал, что я давно с 90-х работаю с политиками, я понимаю, что это очень сложно. Это самое эффективное, но очень сложное взаимодействие, потому что у них есть и закоснелость, и вот это вот окружение, которое мешает им. И то, что нормальные эволюционные лидеры в политике, они единичные. Они как белые лебеди или белые вороны, к сожалению, не могут собрать то количество людей, которое сможет что-то реализовать в глобальном масштабе в стране, да, даже и на местных уровнях, в городе и так далее. То есть это обычно бывают исключения из практики, к сожалению. Поэтому я понимаю, что будущее нужно ковать уже сегодня. В связи с этим я пригласил как раз вот Балта Украина и еще несколько групп, которые и на Западе, и на Востоке, и на Юге, в разных частях Украины, а также приглашаю вообще всех со всего мира, потому что у нас планируется многоязычные, ну, вначале это будет трехязычные, плюс английский, курсы о том, как быть и счастливым, и психологически, и духовно здоровым, как ребятам, школьникам и студентам определиться в своем предназначении, в своей миссии, как более эффективно реализовываться. У меня дело в том, что более сотни проектов, реализованных мной как предпринимателем и как инвестором, который проинвестировал, и маленькие, и крупные, я буду учить их, наверное, определяться, кто они. Потому что реализация идет в разных сферах. Если это финансовая реализация, это специалист, предприниматель, топ-менеджер, бизнесмен, инвестор. Я это все проходил, все эти уровни. И, наверное, я постараюсь создать ту систему, которая поможет им побыстрее определиться в жизни, быть психологически, духовно здоровыми, быть счастливыми, успешными и помогать развитию, по крайней мере, себе. Потому что я считаю, что любой человек, как минимум в своей жизни, должен быть лидером. Если он даже не имеет никого в своем подчинении, а лидером своей жизни, я думаю, что любой человек должен быть. Вот это план минимума. План максимума – это зависит от масштаба. И я согласен, что если мы берем серьезного бизнесмена, там определенный набор есть скиллов, но если мы работаем с молодежью, то тут надо начинать с познания, самопознания, чтобы они познавали себя, понимали, что им сейчас ближе, познавали мир через какие-то профессии. И я думаю, что я запускаю как лабораторию такую с понедельника. И получается, мне интересно создание платформ и эволюционного мышления, эволюционного лидерства и экосистемы международной, ну, начиная, конечно, с Украины, но и дальше. И вторую платформу – это образовательные и техкомпании для того, чтобы ребята могли потом реализоваться там во всех этих ипостасях, которые возможны. Вот, и моя помощь, естественно, в этом. И создание платформ международных для того, чтобы можно было делать переопыление с серьезных компаний со всего мира. Поэтому вот эти два направления считаю с понедельника приоритетом. Все остальное будет уже зависеть от развития экосистемы. Это уже позже, чтобы не занимать много времени. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Yuri. It's amazing how I know Yuri for about a year and a half now, right? Since January 2022. And Yuri has always been a leader of action. So I am much more a person who is thinking about big ideas. I don't like acting, but fortunately in this life, there are people who like acting, like realizing things. And Yuri is definitely one of them. So thank you for talking about starting things already coming next coming Monday. Thank you very much. And we have Nick. Nick, shall we do another exercise? Just kidding, but it would be nice. Thank you for this initial idea.
I think we should, because I'm looking at the clock and it's, yeah, there we go.
Also,
Let's have to go. Yeah, if we're talking about our well-being, well, we should practice it. What Yuri said and Alexei said very much resonates with me. I love to remove obstacles by teaching basic skills. That's an absolutely must. Having worked with over 1,000 students, I absolutely, I've studied this for 3 years. They all, well, whenever I was starting a semester with them, I asked, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to know? And it all melted down to who am I and what do I really want and what is my purpose? So thanks Yuri. This is something that I would really very much support. Item number 3, this is a specific methodology that I've been developing with my group of partners. It's a methodology to create value through ecosystemic and stakeholder mapping. Something complicated, but it's basically a practical tool how to look at the world in terms of different stakeholders, their different needs, and how to create impact by understanding what is not connected, who is not happy, and why is there a problem that exists. And by creating a specific intervention, specific organization forms or horizontal forms that connect on this stakeholder map, connect things that are not connected, thus creating impact. Thank you.
Wow, Nick, amazing. Our colleague, Wendy Elliott from United Kingdom, she's very active in mapping, and Marilyn introduced her to Living Cities, and Wendy became one of the co-founders, and also Alexander Laszlo and Pavel Luksha and several other co-founders are really active in those mapping exercises. So we'll definitely need to talk about it on a sort of global scale. And as we complete this circle, thank you again. Thank you for the physical exercises you brought into our picture. I see that Dina came. Dina, thank you for joining us again. Marilyn, I would love you to complete the circle. So let me pass it on to Dina first, and then on to Marilyn, if you don't mind. Okay. All right. Thank you. Dina, on to you.
Hey, hey friends. Okay, for 10 years I've been running the school where we actually work with leadership skills. And some of the people who come to us already been leaders and want to go further, and some people never been leaders. And some people need to be a leader for themselves, running their own creative business or running some kind of healing business, whatever they have. And I've been developing these ideas, what person need to work on to become a good leader. And I think first quality of leader is ability to create a safe space for developing of other people. And therefore, they need to create a safe space inside themselves. If you don't have a safe space, joyful space, space for creativity, space where you don't have a lot of inner conflict inside themselves, you are not able to create this space for others. So the first step for developing a leader is, for me, is leader need to learn her own landscape, inner landscape, psychology landscape, his vortexes and his downs, his power, her vulnerability, and be safe with it. And also know It's a little bit about their own trauma. And second, leader need to lead people somewhere. She need to envision the future, so have some direction, right? So she or he need to have a feeling of their own direction, of their own purpose, of their own destiny sometimes. And this is other part of my program where we learn about personal life myth, who we are, why we are here, what we need to bring to this world. And this is the second part of leadership. Leader needs to have skills of listening. Listening not only what people tell him, but listening the field, listening space. And this, we have methods for that. This is organizational constellation, this is playback theater. And leader needs to lead people. There are no, as I told before, there are not a time for leadership, dictatorship leadership. There are time for leadership who kind of seduce people to their own way, right? They have personal charisma, they have personal ideas. So leaders need to be have their own power and their own charisma. And so that's another step of developing a leader, working with personal power and charisma. And then when the organization is here, or like personal leadership is here, you need to start to move in the world, and you meet others, and conflict happens. Conflict will happen, definitely. When we meet somebody who is not us, there are different type of competition or conflict, and how to make conflict as a starting point of new development, as a starting point of new relationship, as the entrance to a deeper friendly relationship with the world. So understanding conflict, understanding your place in the conflict and place of the conflict of others, and how to navigate it. There's another big area of leadership development. There are probably more, but that's what I want to bring to the table right now. And the method I use is process work, or process-oriented psychology. This is organizational constellation, or family constellation sometimes, and this is playback theater.
Thank you very much. Process work, playback theater, all those innovative and also traditional methods will help us to become better leaders. I should say that about 2004, so almost 20 years ago, I heard about process work and couldn't understand what does it mean. So only now I realize how much value it could bring to people in understanding their inner landscapes, as you mentioned, but also working with their relationships. And now let me pass it on to Marilyn. And Kate, thank you so much. Greetings to London. And Marilyn, on to you in Scotland.
Thank you, Lev. So I'm designing in the moment because I'm very inspired by listening to all the different approaches to the education for youth. And I'm also really inspired to be thinking about how to make a difference in the Ukraine. So as I relayed in my story earlier, I can be inspired by dreaming, and I had a fantasy that all of the integral practitioners that I knew around the world were in many different places. So coaches, organizational development, psychiatrists, psychologists, people who were working with parenting, all kinds of people working in City Hall. And I decided that I would accept a challenge from Paul Van Schaik, who produces a little book series called Urban Hub. And so he actually, I know you can't see this because of the background thing. Very interesting. Anyway, the little booklet is called Accelerating City Change in a VUCA World. And I invited over 20 practitioners from around the world to tell me how they do what they do in 6 pages that were mostly graphic. So this is a very easy and fun book to read. And what happened was I curated the book when it came in because I didn't know it would be this kind of an organization. And I curated it so that what we could see is how do you care for yourself? That was one group. How do you care for others? That was another group. How do you care for your places? That was another group. And how do you care for the planet? So caring for self, others, place, and planet is what I call Gaia's reflective, or Gaia's code of care, Gaia's code of care. It also reflects what I think we're called to be as humans, that James Lovelock, the physicist who said that Gaia herself was a living system, he said that humans are Gaia's reflective organs. And I think that we could take this book and update it, and it would be great that every one of these practitioners would be matched with somebody in the Ukraine. So we would make a learning buddy system. And that way we could connect both young people and people of all generations in the Ukraine with others in the rest of the world who can support them in the learning journey that is going to have to occur to rebuild, reinvent the country. So that's what I would do as far as designing the education process. And I think it would be very exciting, and I'm feeling quite inspired today. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for bringing up the topic of this buddy system. I think it's very inspiring. And also, you showed the book. We haven't seen it because of the Zoom, maybe you noticed, but Marilyn showed sort of a beautiful book on integral city development. And listening to you, I also realized we should ask both Paul Van Schaik, but also all of us, to maybe create another issue. Oh, now I see it. We see it, I mean. Yes, beautiful. Yes. So we could create another edition of the book also on integral leadership in the cities, right? Because there is so much, potential, so much richness and frameworks and tools. And Alexander Laszlo, whom we spoke about several times before, Alexander, you've been with us even as you worked on a different project in Paris right now. So thank you for joining us. And Alexander, you are actually, after Marilyn, now completing the second circle, and we are talking about what frameworks, tools, capacities, research, academic or organizational capacity you could bring to creating various programs for developing future leaders on a global scale in Ukraine, in other countries, regions, and cities around the world. So thank you for joining us. Alexander is participating also on behalf of Living Cities Earth in a conference and a workshop on building a planetary university right now in Paris with other of our colleagues. Alexander, on to you, maybe 2 minutes on what could you bring to the table for our future leaders development programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lev. Delighted to be here again in our learning community. So this is exactly what I want to share with you. So 2 minutes, if I understand correctly. I would like to share with you a tool, a process, a framework that can be used anywhere. Usually it works best within some kind of learning ecosystem. And this is what we're seeking to be ourselves right here. And we are a learning ecosystem in the sense that there are things that we can share among each other, among ourselves, with our organizations that can help resolve not only our own challenges, but also build towards creating new opportunities. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully this time I have better luck than I did when I tried to share it the previous time. And this is just one slide. So here you will see what is called the Community Response Circle, the CRC process. And if you look at this, it is composed in the middle of a learning ecosystem. The learning ecosystem, as it says here, is where community exchange and synergy takes place. It's the broader context that supports the community response circle and feeds the work of the people in the community response circle. So in any kind of learning ecosystem, somebody can step forward as on the top, the guardian, and say, I have an opportunity. I just got a grant in my community, or I have a challenge or a problem, and I would like to tap into the collective intelligence to see how we can do this. Here is the challenge. I want to share it with the group. And then they share it with the learning ecosystem, and people who relate to it and say, you know, that's similar to my challenge. Or maybe I have resources that I could offer you. Or maybe there's something that you're doing that would feed what I'm also challenged by. And so they form what's called a circle, a community response circle, a group of people who are interested in the particular challenge, one kind of living case, and they want to work together to resolve it together. So they explore, what would this mean if they were to explore this together? Then they engage in a creative process of prototyping an answer. And the answer doesn't mean it's the right answer, but it might be that they simply using their collective intelligence to say, okay, what is it, first of all, that drew us together, and how is it that we can together provide some kind of tentative response? And they prototype it working on themselves, not on some other community. They work on the community that the Guardian brought. It could be their school, it could be their neighborhood, it could be their company, it could be any kind of challenge they have in some kind of community, in a learning community of their own. After this, the circle, the community response circle, has created some kind of basic model for implementation, they try it out, they prototype it. And then there's a learning process, say, how'd it go? Well, what did we prototype? We got this far, but it's only meant to be prototyping in terms of the community response circle. Once they've prototyped it, the circle disbands. And the person who's the Guardian continues to take forward the project now, and they develop in their own context, whether it's their school or their community or their place. But they generate together, before they disband, something that says, what were our learnings from this? What were our evolutionary learning insights, both in terms of the experience of trying to address this challenge, and in terms of the outcomes and what we were actually able to produce. This gets fed back into the collective knowledge system, kind of the database, the knowledge base of the learning ecosystem. And that can be used to help develop the ecosystem itself in a more robust way, because it becomes now a resource and a living case that was, instead of having to have the people go and respond and wait for, I don't know, the Secretary of Education to provide the new guidebook and handbook for how to deal with distance learning, etc. They respond to it themselves, and they learn how to resolve not only their challenges, but also their opportunities together. So that's the framework of the community response circle. And it's easy to implement, and it's kind of the core of what we would call the evolutionary learning community, the community that learns how to learn in harmony with the dynamics of its broader environment. The CRC is kind of the vehicle for the evolutionary learning community. And remember that the evolutionary learning community is the unit of the evolutionary learning ecosystem. So a community of evolutionary learning communities that are using community response circles, a community of those learning communities is the evolutionary learning ecosystem. And that is what we're kind of representing loosely here. We're representing that evolutionary learning ecosystem ourselves as we explore how can we bring to life the learnings for 10,000 cities in our own places and spaces. And we're doing that together, learning with and from each other. So that's a little tool that might be useful.
Thank you, Alexander. And as we completed the circle and we spoke about balance of developing our mind, our energy, our body, Marilyn wisely, as always, mentioned, guys, we need a break. We are humans. To human well, we need sometimes a break, and we'll take a short break in a minute. So I will share a couple of thoughts from my perspective while we're preparing a small video to enjoy with music during the break. We'll have a 3-minute break and then come back for a very short last session. So we'll not make it long. We'll actually finish earlier today than expected. Couple of comments from me regarding how what I can bring to the table. Well, as I mentioned, and Farrell, thank you very much for mentioning that education doesn't need to be boring, even at Harvard and other of such sort of established universities. We actually had a lot of fun at Harvard, and I'm very lucky that I'm part of this Harvard alumni network, so being connected to many, many individuals from Harvard and Columbia on a global scale, I feel that we will engage, in addition to all the expertise we have within Living Cities Earth, we will engage other partners, institutions, projects, network organizations, and Alexander and Marilyn brought a lot of amazing individuals into Living Cities Earth ecosystem, like Anna-Lou Smitsman and Wendy Elliott, whom I already mentioned, and many, many others. So what we could do is to combine our expertise and tools and practices and programs and really create essential program which we could actually offer to young people worldwide. Initially, my sense is in English. We also plan to do a program in Ukrainian and Russian later this year, around September. And what we could also do is to work with city administrations, because they have connections to local school systems and local universities, to really bring our programs to audiences on a global scale in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in both Americas, and in Australia, even Australia. So lots to do, lots of fun stuff, but let's take a break. Thank you everybody for your contribution, for listening, for sharing. Thank you to everybody who is watching us through social media and will be watching the recording. Please join this work. It's a non-for-profit work. We're doing this, most programs, large-scale programs, will be free to participants. And we hope that it will change their lives and lives of the societies where we all live. And as Nick mentioned somewhere in the chat, I just read it, he said, I just realized that leadership is to transform inhabitants of the cities into citizens of the cities, right? To become more aware, more responsible, and more co-creating. So 3-minute break, we'll watch a short video and then come back for last half an hour of our work. Thank you, and let's enjoy our break. All right, thank you very much. I think we will be starting. We have about half an hour left and we'll finish earlier today so we could enjoy our life even more than we expected. Of course, we enjoy our being together today. Thank you everybody for joining. So let's quickly review what we have done so far and where we are going next. I will show the screen with our program. Just a second. I think that's it. All right. As we see, we have went through our welcome, shared the stories and heard the stories from some amazing people from all across the planet. We spoke about what tools, approaches, frameworks we could use to develop programs which support future leaders, young leaders, but also leaders in different parts of our societies. And now we're coming to the last part. So we will co-design together how organizationally and methodologically, how do we actually create this program and how do we grow future leaders in 1,000+ cities, happy cities, living cities, thriving, flourishing cities. So it's, as many of us mentioned, this is the leadership of ourselves to become authors of our own life, but also leaders of our collective experience. How do we develop communities? How do we develop our cities? And from my short experience, I have seen people who are 15 years old, 18 years old, 12 years old, 25, 55, 75, who are great leaders in their communities and in their cities, and some of them on a global scale. So it's really not about age, but thinking about the future, we definitely also focus on younger generation in addition to all of the adults we're working with. So how do we do it? We have about half an hour, maybe 27 minutes left. I suggest to do it in two ways. In our chat in Zoom, we have a link to, let me get it. We have a link to the Miro board, and I'll try to show it as well, so you could see it again if you haven't used it. The Miro board, where is it? Just a second. Just a second. Here we go. You'll see it in a second. So this is a Miro board. Thanks to Ferial and a couple of other colleagues, you see that lots of the key ideas and insights and suggestions from what we've been discussing are already put into those different parts of our board today. So we looked at the insights from the story barn, the yellow stickers on the top left. We looked at how to develop future leaders, the greenish stickers in the middle. And we are moving to this top right corner. So how do we develop future leaders in 1,000+ cities? What organizationally, what methodologically we should do? What do we do in terms of communication, engagement, etc., funding, and many other things? So how do we actually create those programs? This is what we'll be talking about for the last 25 minutes of our time together. And what I suggest you do, or we do, I do it as well, you could go directly into the Miro board using the link, or you could type a comment, suggestion, idea into the Zoom chat. We'll, of course, copy it and save it and then analyze it and use it for all of our purposes. If you want to speak, raise your hand. We'll pass it on to you. You could also speak using your voice. And let's see, who would like to speak first? Please, is it okay if I keep this Miro board on our screen, or do we prefer to switch to the regular faces? What do you think? Marilyn, Alexander, please advise.
I would say, just as we get going here, let's use a little bit the Miro board. And then as the conversation warms up, let's bring it back to the human faces so we can start to interact with each other. But
Okay.
just looking a little bit now at the board, getting ourselves oriented, and then we can bring it back here.
All right. So whoever has some ideas or comments, please raise your hand. I'll start off So from my perspective, if we want to work on scale, we definitely need, let's say, an R&D center. So people who are the program designers, program managers who develop the program, but then we need program delivery, right? How do we engage people locally in many different cities? We will need to, to attend to differences in culture, in language. So most likely we'll start with English as the main language, but very soon we will have to also use other languages. And as we speak about launching some programs in Ukraine, we will use Ukrainian and Russian over there. So most likely simultaneous translation. And also if we work with countries like China or, Latin America, we will need to bring on board other capacities of both leadership development, communication, and materials, everything in those sort of larger language groups worldwide. This is some of the ideas from me at the moment, and whoever wants to add something, please raise your hand and we'll pass it on to you. Thank you. And I see that some stickers are being added as we speak. I will read a couple of them. So combine our expertise. Definitely yes. Tell stories of interbeing. So storytelling is a powerful tool. And I will pass it on to Feral in a second. Consider language and translations. That's what I mentioned. Engage other strategic partners, right? Other institutions, other learning communities. Feral, let me pass it on to you. And whoever wants to speak next, please raise your hand as well. Feral?
Apologies, I was still muted. Thank you so much, Lev. I really just want to riff off yourself and some others in the sense that I kind of added the whole leverage our skills and combine our expertise. So I think it was Marilyn that mentioned the book, and yourself, the book on integral leadership. And then what Alexander presented, I think for us to look at how do we bring who we are, what we bring together in more cohesive ways. And these are some of the examples of that. One of what I just looked at when I'm looking at all the skills and listening to what everybody's bringing, there's lots of programs and methods. And for example, we had 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes to share these things. But when I was listening to everybody else, so much of what they were saying was really reflecting back some of my own work. And I am suggesting that we have a forum where we actually really map that out well, because if we don't, we lose that leveraging capacity. And we reinvent the wheel. And I think there are aspects that others have worked on and aspects of how they present, what they present that are perhaps better than what I'm doing, or they further down the line, or whatever the case may be, and so forth. So I'm wondering if that's really important to do, to really map out that well and really create that leveraging points between our work and combine that in a, I mean, I know that Alexander and some others are working on this whole global university, but I think this is a perfect vehicle to, when we talk about nurturing that kind of evolutionary leadership, that is a beautiful vehicle where the student is they are all at different points in their development. So this allows them to find what it is that they need, rather than this is what we want to give you. And they can sharpen and do what they want to do in a space like that, but that we're combining our efforts in that way, and sometimes even combining our products because it's necessary. And I guess the willingness on our side to perhaps lay down our flags so that we can do what is best really for society, more than just our own personal expressions. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Feral. I'll pass it on to Marilyn. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Feral. I think those are all really good points. And two things I want to remind us about was when we set out to create the e-journal, which is related but not the same as this, one of the things we identified was that we needed to unlearn things. So I would love to see a whole theme of unlearning in our approach to connecting with young people. And I would also love to see them initiating what it is they want, so that it isn't just top-down delivery to them. We've heard a lot of our stories about the points in our lives when we were influenced to realize that we had to develop our capacities. But I also think young people, I'm especially aware that they're wired differently than me. So they actually have a beginning set of capacities that I probably didn't get until much later in life. So I would love to see us maybe use some of the expertise that we have amongst us to notice where is it that we should be starting different people. And I guess the way to say it would be meeting different students where they're at, instead of assuming it's all one size.
Thank you very much, Marilyn. Before I pass it on to Yuri, I want to read a couple of new posters. So bring intercultural communications, very important in our global diverse world, critical to understand others and to be able to communicate with others. Hold virtual town halls, so larger meetings where many people would participate. Create weekly program with various topics, I guess on every week. Map our capacities to engage all of what we could bring to the table. That was from Ferial. Ask what students need. Create navigation of available resources. What it means is that there are so many things available, but we don't know where to, to go to learn something or to acquire some necessary tools or knowledge. So we could not only generate content, but also be the integrators, right? Navigate through the available content. For example, Harvard University has about 100 free courses available online this summer. Many of them are on the topics of communication and leadership and interpersonal relationships, etc. And this is just one small example of many other opportunities in the world. So we could be the navigator. Design with young people. And now let me pass it on to Yuri and then to Alexander. Yuri?
Да, Олег, спасибо большое. Ну, первое, действительно нужно работать над как раз курсами глубокими. И я думаю, что мы будем это делать в ближайшее время, Лев. Вот. Второе, работать над экосистемой, как сказал Александр, это тоже очень важно. Мы это общались и с Лукшей Павлом и так далее, Планетарный университет, то, что действительно важная вещь и значимая в мире. Но я считаю, что то, что мы можем еще делать, это наводить связи с министерствами, с департаментами образования, семьи и молодежи в городах, вот, со школами, с учебными заведениями и в конечном счете с учениками, с молодежью не только. Поэтому я считаю, что в ближайшее время мы это уже начнем делать, составим планы, будем реализовывать где-то больше 100 стран в мире для начала. Вот, и мелких, и крупных. И, естественно, мы понимаем, что сработают не все, небольшое количество стран, но надо с чего-то начинать и работать на всех уровнях для того, чтобы был результат. Одного уровня, с моей субъективной точки зрения, недостаточно. Обязательно нужно многоуровневая работа с различными структурами. Тогда будет результат эффективнее и быстрее. Вот, я думаю, что с понедельника мы собираем несколько групп и начинаем работать и над тем, и над другим потихоньку, как мы сможем. Вот, и результат обязательно будет. Если мы не опустим руки, то других вариантов нет. Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. So work through local and national governments, reach out to eventually 200 plus countries and combine top-down and bottom-up approaches. Alexander, on to you and then to Alexei.
Great. So many buttons to click here. Sorry. Okay. Here we are back with the translations. This is wonderful, by the way. I'm really appreciating that we can have this in this global village that we have here. This is more than a village. This is our global thriving virtual city, very clearly. And we're very cosmopolitan with all the languages that we have here. That's beautiful. So thank you. I wanted to share again. I'm going to share my screen again because there's a quote from Margaret Mead. Can I do that here? Yes, thank you so much, Leb. So look, here's this quote that I want to share. It's a little bit of reading, so I'm going to do it with you here. And it's from Margaret Mead, who in Jean Houston's book, she quotes her. It says here, in Jean Houston's book, A Mythic Life, she quotes Margaret Mead on her deathbed. Margaret Mead said, "Forget everything I've been telling you about working with governments and bureaucracies. I've been lying here, being an anthropologist in my own dying." Fascinating experience, by the way. There's no hierarchy to it. And I've had an important insight into the future. The world is going to change so fast that people and governments will not be prepared to be stewards of change. What will save them is teaching learning communities. They come together in churches or businesses or even in families. They could meet weekly and do your kind of exercises, especially ones that develop their capacities. There must be humor, laughter, games, and good food as well. That will keep the participants coming back. Then, when they feel ready, they will choose projects to work on to help their communities. I love this last part. The only way to have a possible society, Jean, is to develop the possible human at the same time. So for me, this quote, I can put it into the chat here as well. This quote addresses a lot of what we're putting here in terms of what it means to be the leader in helping foster the emergence of living cities and 10,000 living cities. So it means creating these community spaces, these places where there's laughter, food, music, basically the elements of conviviality. Ivan Ilyich writes about conviviality as a technology of human relationship, ways for us to be in dynamic, harmonious relationship with each other. How do we create the spaces of conviviality? And I think this is what we are doing in our exploration of living cities. And the fun part is that there's no hierarchy to it, that we get to be the guinea pigs in this process of exploration. There's no right or wrong. It's about having all the voices engaging in the dance. This is what Marilyn was, I think, alluding to as well. It's to have, you're not designing this for learners or for others, but only with the members of your living community. That's what I think Jean Houston and was quoting Margaret Mead talking about. All right, thanks.
Thank you, Alexander. As we pass it on to Alexei and then to Feril, I want to thank everyone for participation. Whenever you have to go, feel free to take off. It's only the beginning, it's not the end. We are starting many years process. And by the way, before passing it on to Alexei, I wanted to mention, sometimes you could feel, isn't it strange, a group of people, 5, 10, 20, 100 people want to change the world or want to create programs for learning in 10,000 cities. Aren't they stupid? Aren't they irresponsible? Aren't they just dreamers? But actually, as another quote, I think from Margaret Mead as well, or maybe somebody else, it's attributed to her as well, goes that only a small group of committed people, it's the only thing which has ever changed the world. So this is about leadership. This is about creating the vision, but then also having the internal power and interpersonal power and action to make your dreams happen. And this is what we do. And we invite everyone to join us in this journey. Alexei, on to you.
Thank you so much. I just want to share an idea that probably for us, it might be important to think how we can integrate different generations' experience and to really represent all our solutions, ideas, frameworks, tools, and all of this stuff through the, I would say, new generation's perspective. And probably in this case, we need to use, I don't know, TikTok, Reels, and Instagram, some fun tools. And at the same time, I would invite us to think how we can engage their influencers, like bloggers, I don't know, who they love, right? Singers, dancers, actors, movie makers, cartoon makers, and all of these significant people for them, right? And that we really can talk to their language, because we know what we're speaking about, right? And we know how to build mindset, skills, and we've been doing that for many years. At the same time, it's very important, from my opinion, that we really speak on their language, and they feel, and we all feel, that we are in the same pride, right? That we are the same pride people to each other. And I would invite us to think how we can really integrate all our experience with their ways to perceive life, to perceive knowledge, skills, and really inspire them to do that. Thank you.
Alexei, very important comment. If you could, if you haven't done it already, please put it into the Miro board.
Okay.
It will be speeding up. We have about 10 minutes left, and Ferial is speaking next. And I would love to ask Andy Ferguson, who has just joined us from beautiful Scotland, to later also speak up, because Andy has an amazing experience of working with young people together with Ferial and other colleagues. And Andy, would love to hear you speak later on, but now on to Ferial.
Thank you so much, Lev. I just want to pick up where Alexei left off, and I want to talk about, is it possible for us to create an environment where a culture of honor can be nurtured? Now, I understand that in our various different cultures, there's always been this aspect of honor, but very often it's been out of this obligation space. As opposed, and I think it's because we have not always understood our deep connectedness to everything and to everyone. And I see this becoming a problem when we start to work with each other, because older people feel threatened by younger people feel overwhelmed by older people, so is there this way, because there's this beautiful rite of passage that we get to have between taking our first breath and taking our last. And that is not the end, because it's just, we get to write a part of the human story and a very small part of it, right? And so how do we work with each other so that this is not an issue, but that we are listening in, we are taking into account, we are honoring that which has been, that which is, and that which is to come. So I wonder if there needs to be these conversations together with also nurturing kind of our deep humanity space, because I look at the world, and being a person of color, I see very often there's this massive polarizations when it comes to race, when it comes to religion, when it comes to major things. And even in here, in this space, we're represented by so much diversity. And how can we really hold space for us to think about diversity as an opportunity, a diversity as a gift, rather than pulling us to these polarized situations? So I'm just thinking about, if we have regular meetings, and I think what Alexei said, across generations, because I think it was Marilyn that said the younger people are thinking very different to us. But what if we were able to really, again, back to the honoring my worldview, but at the same time honoring the younger person's, or anyone else's for that matter, that my freedom never encroaches on another's freedom. Thank you.
Wow, Ferial, you're revolutionary at heart, and so beautiful. I wrote down based on what you have said, and put a card in this Miro board, but I also put a diversity, not only intergenerational, races, cultures, but also in terms of values, because we know on this integral and spiral dynamic maps, many different people have different values, and it's also a challenge and an opportunity. How do we communicate and collaborate across different value scales, right? I don't know the answer, but definitely together we'll be able to find it out. And we have 5 minutes left for our co-creation today. We'll have other opportunities in the future, but today 5 minutes left. And Andy, I saw that you joined us, and Andy is a very active leader of developmental and educational programs in Scotland and the United Kingdom. If you are able to speak, I see your beautiful picture, but I don't see your actual face. If you hear us, please join in the discussion. I count to 3. 1.
Lev, apologies. I'm on my iPhone. I've literally just walked in, and I cannot find how to get the video on. So I hope you can hear me.
We do.
Oh, okay. So thank you for that introduction. I feel a bit of a fraud here because one, I haven't been taking part, so I don't really know what the conversation's about. But and it's a shame I don't have the video because I wanted to show you the business card that a friend of mine developed for me. And it's on one side, it's got a logo that says, "I love my life." On the other side, it's just a blank red card. And what we devised between us is that in Scotland and Britain and Europe at the moment, people are familiar with a thing called VAR. It's the virtual assistant referee. People that are interested in football know that football matches are being stopped while the referee goes and looks at a monitor because someone else is sitting in an office somewhere looking at these controversial decisions that the referee's making. And the referee gets a chance to go back and look at this on the TV monitor and decide whether, in fact, to give a penalty or whatever it is. So I was talking to this friend, he's a very talented designer and communicator, and I was talking to him about VAR for football fans. And I said, you know, there's a different type of VAR I've been thinking about, which is value, appreciation, and reward. And he came up with this idea of going and visiting young people with the red card and a whistle. As I say, I saw the videos on, but I've got a referee's whistle here. And going in and saying to people, imagine you could give the red card to anybody that wasn't shown that they felt you were valuable, appreciated, and respected. Imagine if you could demand that of yourself and other people. And we've been looking at how we can speak to young men, particularly between 16 and 22, and using VAR, this love of football, this understanding of the paradox of a young footballer is that, male or female, that they have to develop their own talent, but to express that talent, they have to be able to express it within a team. So we really, Ferry and I have spent 5 years on SRG Journeys. I'm sure she's filled you in some of what SRG Journeys is about. But for me, SRG Journeys is a technology that allows people to do personal self-development while simultaneously watching other people do development, and together doing this kind of collective interpersonal development. And we've found it's a transformative experience. So when you're open and vulnerable to doing your own personal development alongside others in an environment that keeps you safe, stimulated, and giving you really good feedback, it seems to work. And I think it's just finding the context. The MacGuffin, as the film director Alfred Hitchcock would call it, finding the thing that you can finding that thing that you can share, that you can learn together with, and reflect on that, and get this joint group reflection on, oh, I didn't see this. The information I sent you last night or this morning was saying that I'm a provocateur, a contrarian, and an iconoclast. And the reason these are words that people have been used by others about me. So I'm not picking those words because they appeal to me. I'm picking them because that's what people have said about me. And the idea is that, you know, really challenging the paradigms and the perspectives that we have about ourselves and about each other, and really having fun in a space that allows us to explore that. And then saying, what would I really like? What would make me very happy? What would make me delighted? What would make me feel rewarded? What would make me feel appreciated? And I've done some work with young people in programs where, because the people that are running the programs don't actually have the resource to take them further, they're scared to raise their ambition. They're scared to inspire them. I saw the information that you guys put out, and inspire and empower people. And I think that's our job, you know, and that's to inspire one another, inspire each other, and inspire every generation. And I think what we're looking at in SRG Journeys is, one, really looking for partners to develop SRG Journeys for young people 18 to 22, because I'm old. I want to see the results of my labours, right? So I don't want to start with youngsters that I'm never going to see develop. I want to work with a group of people that I can see develop. But equally, the other side of the coin that I love to think about is people my age, people that have just turned 60, who are also at a deeply critical point in their life. And I think if we can I love what I just heard a moment ago about, interconnecting different groups, different generations, different people from different parts of the world, because that helps us break the paradigms. It helps us have these multiple perspectives, and it allows us to recognize our common humanity. So I'm up for anything and everything that we can do to create these connected spaces where we're all learning together, regardless of our age, our gender, or whatever we want to call it, right? Because that's where the joint experience is where those paradigms and those perspectives change. That's all I've got to say.
Andy, it's fascinating. As Ferial said, you are true Scot. So to me, your English sounds like music. Not necessarily understood 100% of it, but it was really a pleasure and definitely many great insights and concepts. So we'll be looking forward to working with you and everyone on a global scale. We bring different perspectives, different mindsets. So we'll learn how to combine them and how to share, right, with each other and with the world, our capacities. As we finish our program in a couple of minutes for today, I invite everyone who is not yet connected to Living Cities Earth to subscribe to our Telegram channel. We also have some resources on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So if you look for Living Cities Earth, you'll definitely find it. But I indicated the Telegram channel in our Zoom chat. Also, we have a full day tomorrow on building institutional partnership ecosystem. Alexander Laszlo will be the leader for the day, and I will support him tomorrow. So we bring together leaders of various global communities, institutions, to talk about how organizations could work together to make all of those changes we want to see in the world. Today, we talk about leadership for younger generation, but also cross-generational leadership. And before we finish our program on time or even a little bit earlier, I invite everyone who wants to share either in Zoom chat or using your voice, one or two words, really one or two words. Just scan your inner state of mind and energy, and how do you feel? Frustrated, angry, upset, pissed off, or maybe happy and joyous and inspired, whatever you feel. We don't discriminate against any feelings. We accept all of them. So be true to yourself. Share whatever you feel. So I'll go first and then pass it on to Alexander. And Alexander, I ask you to pass it on to somebody else. So I feel uplifted. Alexander.
I will pass it on to Ferial. And I feel stoked.
What does it mean, stoked? Could you explain?
Okay, it's a very California kind of thing, but stoked is where you feed the furnace with new coals, with new logs, with new things that burn and keep the fire and the passion ignited. Look at the fire right there behind me. I am stoked, and I'm going to pass it to somebody else who ignites life.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. I was going to say, so my organization is called Ignite Life, and I feel absolutely ignited. Thank you. And I pass that to Igor.
Ilgar, if you can hear us and if you could share, would love to hear. Thank you.
Большое вдохновение и большая благодарность. Спасибо всем.
Lots of inspiration and lots of gratitude to everyone. Do you pass to any specific person on the screen? We don't. You have your mic off.
Я передаю слово Алексею.
Thank you so much. I feel happiness. I feel happy and I feel inspired that we all together can really impact. So we have capacity, we have knowledge, energy, and we can do it for sure. Thank you so much. I pass it to Marilyn.
Yeah, I feel that I'm on fire. I had to change my background to just go along with Alexander. And I said in the chat that I love our energy, our radical optimism, and our evolutionary vitality. And I pass it on to Dina.
All right, let's see. Dina, if you can hear us and if you can speak, I'll count to 3. And if not, I'll pass to Ilya Antonets. Dina, 1, 2, 3. All right, on to Ilya.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I would like to say that I finally found the community of people who have actually the same state of mind that I have. And I've been looking for many, many years. And I want to thank Serhiy Sidorenko, my close friend, who actually invited me to be here with you. And the word is what I feel now is it's global. This is the word that connects us. Like we are all on, say, different continents, and we are all like together connected. What I read on Miro is extraordinary, because I've been working on this this stuff for many, many years, and as you see, I've got some papers on the back, and my apartment is covered in those papers. Those are lots of ideas and plans, but I was like looking everywhere for people like you, and I just couldn't find them. And today, Serhiy Sidorenko sent me this link saying, "Come on, are you joining?" And what I heard, like, I'm deeply happy to be here with you. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Ilya. Whom do you pass it to?
I'll pass it to Serhiy Sidorenko. He's smiling there.
Thank you, Ilya. I feel sorry that I could not join earlier. I just came back from work half an hour ago. And I have to say thank you to Kimberly Chappell, my good friend. She, in fact, gave me this link. And then I could invite Ilya, having this link. I'm new to your community. The only person I know here is Alexander Laszlo, whom I had the happiness to hear a couple of times. And like Ilya, I'm also very happy. We are both in Kyiv, in Ukraine's capital. We are very happy to be part of your community and to be with you. And I feel, when you ask me how I feel at the end of this meeting, I feel regenerated, because I'm very happy there is this energy in the world, energy and desire to change the world for the better. We only really have to figure out how to, how to find the right people, how to join the effort, and how to streamline the energy so that it goes in the right direction and produces the result we all need. Thank you very much for what you do. And thank you. And I pass it, I don't know, there is this person, sorry, who has iPhone instead of the name. Sorry, I don't know your name. Yeah.
Oh, Andy. Andy, one word.
Right, Andy.
Yeah, I finally figured out how to get on screen, but I still haven't changed my name. No, it's quite interesting. The only thing I'd like to kind of add is that, I mean, I only got the last 10 minutes. I rushed to do it. And we have a saying in Scotland, and the saying is, what's for you won't go by you. So I'll try and translate that into English. What's for you won't go by you. And I think the overwhelming feeling I've got is just relax, right? If you can relax and we get into flow, we can make really good decisions about what needs to be done. And I mean that at a personal level and at every level. And I think that there's an energy that we sometimes, it's almost a frantic energy that we need to do everything and solve everything and things. And if you just take a moment and chill, thank you, Alexander, yeah, chillax. It's amazing what people can do when they're in a really good space. So I gather that you guys are in a really good space. So congratulations. I'm sorry I missed you all, and I'm sure I'll be more attuned the next time. So yeah, I'm really happy that you guys have had a great time, and I'm sorry I missed it, but I'll be there next time.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you. Well, we have a lot of learning. I see that we have a iSpeak group in Balta, Ukraine. So I'm sure greetings to everyone who was joining us as a group today. And Balta Ukraine wrote in the chat, thanks all speakers. We will hope to cooperate with you. discussion was amazing and very, very interesting. Thank you everybody for joining. And in war-torn Ukraine, I mean, different cities have different conditions, but still, we love you, everyone. And we finish on time. It's about, let's see, 6 p.m. in Amsterdam. Yes, 19 hours in Kiev, Moscow, Turkey, etc., etc. It's 9 a.m. here on the Pacific coast. Alexander in Paris, what is it? 6 p.m., right? 18 hours as well. So not everybody was able to speak, but we want to finish on time in order to have desire to come back in a few days or maybe a couple of weeks. Let me quickly share the final screen we have in our Miro board. Lots of insights. Not all of them have been yet captured from our Zoom chat, so we'll do the work later on. If you want to stay connected, we'll have the summary of our discussion on our social media in Facebook, Telegram, and LinkedIn. Do join. And everybody who learned about Living Cities Earth today for the first time and felt connected, like Sergey and Ilya, do keep in touch. It's easy to get lost in this world, lots of stress, lots of projects. So let's stay together, connected. We have lots to do in the next 100 of years. And the final word, I pass on to Alexander, a couple of words, and then Marilyn, and then we finish. Alexander, and then Marilyn.
Just to say, as Anastasia and Marilyn also put in the chat, a big thanks to our translators who are working there in the background quietly, but what a difference that makes to allow us to be together. So a big thanks. It takes a village, it takes a city, a living city, and we're doing it. Thank you so much again, translators.
Thanks, Alexander. I don't know that I have much more that I can add. And thank you for picking up the second translator, because I wasn't sure how many that we had. And I just really appreciate that our diversity goes with this multilingual capacity, that we're just all quite willing and able to float along in whatever language is being spoken. So I just really feel that the language of the heart is probably what we all share together. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And be safe. Peace, love, unity, and happy cities is what we will build all together. Thank you for today. See you, everybody, tomorrow and in the years to come. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lev.
Do we have to go? I guess we have to go now.
Yes.
I could stay here.
On our way.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Молодец ты, все,